From beginningless time we came, moving ignorantly down through the kalpas, living many deluded lives, struggling to reach some kind of happiness that only a few illusorily attain. Yet for this false prize we battle to the last. Few have ever known the cycle we go through, until we meet his vow.
You know what time it is.
Donkey TV.
I love this place.
Not only to two. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you are, whichever realms of existence you are, whatever mind state you're in, whatever conditions you're in. As always, welcome to my channel.
Welcome to the ocean of the vow. I'm a queer host.
And ocean is very important for this. Water is very important for this episode of Buddha-Dharma Dreamin. So, the dream. I'll give you the dream overall setting first. It was a seaside city somewhere. And the action begins with my dream character, with me driving around, trying to go to the bank and trying to get to the doctor for these appointments that I have, and to get medication I need and get treatment I need, and it's all very urgent and very kind of important for me to get there, to both of these. So I think the bank part comes first, and when I get to the bank, it turns out I've got nothing. I've got nothing. So obviously symbolic there of the empty merit box for me, empty of any karmic merit to be able to give me any capacity for meditative practices or any other practices based on my own merit, my own self-power to, get me to advance me on the path toward enlightenment. So empty merit accounts there, nothing in the accounts there. So that was kind of the first thing, and then I felt even more urgent that I needed to get to the doctor. And for some reason, on the way to the doctor, I kept getting distracted while I was driving. And I'm in a blue car, driving around, trying to get to the doctor or the doctor's appointment, and also to pick up my medication at the chemist and all of that kind of stuff. And so, but I kept getting distracted. I kept slowing down. Kept kind of taking tangent, streets, and was going like, well, it's not that important. These other things are more important. Or I'd get distracted, or go down a different street and go do something else. So whenever I did stop somewhere, there was always somebody eventually that was honking at me or yelling at me from their car to, get moving. Keep moving. Let's go. Get down. Keep moving. Wherever I was stopping, whatever street I was on, where I'd stopped or slowed down, or even was just driving at a normal pace, and it wasn't the street that I was supposed to be going on to get to the doctor or to get to the chemist, that I'd get beeped at by these cars. And I think it was all, predominantly blue cars in the dream, or dark colored cars, most of the time. And coming down this really narrow street and was again being honked at by somebody because I was just doing a normal pace or got distracted or whatever and wasn't heading for the doctor like I was supposed to be. And so to get out of the way of them, I kind of turned up in this kind of nook, driveway type of thing back. It was like almost like an alley, a back alley. It was really tight and really short. And so I went up in there, up on this hill, but it gave me a good vantage. I was completely out of the way of the street, and it kind of gave me a good vantage point from where I was of the city and the streets and everything. So I kind of stopped there and was suddenly like, oh no, wait, I got to get to the doctor. I got to get to the chemist. I need my medication. And then suddenly there were these medication everywhere. There was pills falling, out of crevices in my car. There were pills in bags, these, and I think it was predominantly blue pills, but it was like various different color pills, but mostly blue and white maybe, but mostly blue kind of pills. Again, the blue being now the blue pill in this case is very different than the blue pill that is spoken of metaphorically on the internet and amongst various people, and it was used in the Matrix. Very different meaning to the blue pill here, which I'll get to. But anyway, so they were everywhere, and then I was suddenly like, I suddenly had them in my mouth, like just, I was like, oh, okay, well, blue pills. I was worried, okay, is it just that I'm supposed to take the blue pills or the white ones? And I was trying to figure out, but suddenly there was just pills everywhere, and so I had what I needed. Finally, just was given to me what I needed, kind of thing. I had my pills now, and I had my medication, and so I decided. I think my dream character decided at that point to just go home. So I went home, but it was a huge house with many rooms. But the interior, again, predominantly blue kind of colors with every other kind of colors mixed in there. But, that predominantly was blue. And it was my association. It was actually in the dream, my dream character that thought this was my family house, even though it was totally different, looked totally different than my family house. And this was multi-stories, massive house, mansion, in fact. And my mother was there, but I think my mother wasn't my mother. The dream character was like my mother, but it wasn't my mother. I think it was the blue Tara. I think it was the blue, the blue Dakini. I think it was definitely the blue Tara, the blue mother Tara. Akajati, one of the 21, Taras and all that. And she was mostly off in this one room. And I was in this kind of central room on this one floor. Like I said, the central floor. In this kind of central room, there was like a room in itself had like bunk beds and things, but there was multiple bunks in there and multiple creatures. So my current dogs were present, cats, all kinds of creatures. I got the impression were in there. Even a fish tank, and probably there's probably a fish tank and probably all kinds of other creatures, all kinds of aquatic. Other, reptilian aquatic creatures. Anyway, so in this central room of this, predominantly interior-wise blue mansion, I'm getting the impression now, thinking about it, that the exterior, when it might have been blue actually, or predominantly blue, kind of thing, but like old blue siding. I'm thinking of. And it was supposed to be a pretty old house, many decades ago. This structure was built. But anyway, and Um, so there was the almost kind of like there was this I had to was trying to had this negotiating kind of discussion or communication with the character that was, allegedly my mother in the dream. But again, I don't think it was I think it was the blue Tara. And she so there was this kind of negotiation going on, and her explaining some things about the house. And then after that, I went into this central room, and was talking with the various creatures that were there, and suddenly discovered there was water everywhere, like puddles, and literally water pouring through the ceiling, and puddles on the furniture, and the character, the blue mother in this, the Tara in this, the dream character was allegedly my mother, was acting and saying, "Yeah, that's normal. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah." And I was just like, "Whoa, wait a minute." And then she was like, "No, that's normal. That's kind of yeah, that's kind of always been that way, kind of thing." Then I was like, "Okay," and didn't worry about it. But the water, is an important theme here, I think, in the dream. You'll see why. And I think that was somewhere in there the dream ended, that as I can recall. Um, so yeah, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I think the people honking the horns in the blue cars were the wrathful blue part of the blue Buddha family, the wrathful deities of the blue Buddha family, trying to keep me going on course. And when I talk about all of this, I talk about it in the context of, for me, this is all the working of Amida, all the all of the other Buddhas, all of the other aspects, powers, practices, teachings of all the other Buddhas are contained in Amitabha, in Amitabha's family of Buddhas and deities, and in Amitabha. And that's where all of this is kind of flowing from and into my life. And I think there's an argument for that, the fact that the Amitabha character, whatever tankas, whatever paintings you have, where it's more than just, where it's either the whole kind of cosmology of the world system. Amitabha's at the top in the West. If it's the five Buddha families, the five wisdom Buddhas, or the five wisdom Dakinis, or the five whatever, with the five families related, that they put the West on top often, or the Amitabha character is very predominant. So and it's in some, the Amitabha character, they're not character, but Buddha and Buddha family are in like so many different sutras, and almost every tradition has an Amitabha practice and points more ordinary practitioners toward that, which is the majority of people, whatever school of Buddhism you're in. The majority of people are going to need to do the Amitabha, whatever the Amitabha practice is. That's what they're directed to, or should be. Anyway, so that's why I say I think all of the Buddhas work for us ordinary beings, in the true and real way of Buddhism through Amitabha. So anyway, so yeah, so that's where the dream ends. So I think the mother character was the blue Tara, Akajati, and the people in the cars, various cars, kind of like the wrathful deities, or even maybe they weren't all angry. They were just, actually, now that I think about it, some of them were kind of more angry. Some of them were just more like, hey, you stopped. You have a green light. Like some of them were just trying to be helpful as well. So I think it was the other members of the blue family under Akshobhya Buddha. And also obviously through the medication bit, the whole trying to get to the doctor, the whole medication chemist bit, obviously the medicine Buddha in the East. So now on to the reading. So again, I'm going to be going to Buddha Weekly. Unshakable Power, Akshobhya Buddha, Vajra Lord, Dharani, Mantra Practices, and Sadhana. So we won't go probably through the mantra practices, the Dharani, mantra practices, Sadhana, but we'll go through the documentary part of the article. So, which parable in the Lotus Sutra is the story Akshobhya Buddha? Why is Akshobhya Buddha the very face of unshakable peace? Why is the family blue? And what is the significance of the great Vajra? We answer these questions and more and end with the mantras, practices, and sadhana visualization of Akshobhya Buddha. Akshobhya literally means unshakable. One of Akshobhya's great vows is to never become angry until reaching enlightenment. In his sutra, the Akshobhya Tatagatasya Vyuha Sutra, we hear the story, apologize on my pronunciation, we hear the story of Akshobhya as a monk in an earlier life. He vows in the sutra, now that I've become a bodhisattva, I will never allow myself to get angry at any living being. While still a monk, nothing could shake him, anger him, or move him to rage. He aspired to practice the Dharma in the Eastern world of delight and made a vow not to harbor anger or malice toward any being until he achieved enlightenment. Key word there with regard to my dream, because obviously there were some angry drivers in my dream, and he says, not to harbor any anger or malice toward any being until he achieved enlightenment. Interesting way that's worded, because obviously the Akshobhya Buddha is gonna manifest or emanate, or is gonna have wrathful deity aspects of him, and that's what showed him in my dream. But the anger, the wrathfulness of these deities is an enlightened. It's a pure form of those emotions that are meant in compassion to help you, meant to help beings in a pure way. So it doesn't affect you the way that ordinary anger of ordinary beings or evil beings or unenlightened beings would affect you. It actually has a positive effect, a freeing effect, a driving effect, a motivating effect, a subjugating effect, etc. So, and again, this is all just my own understanding of the teaching. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a scholar. I'm not an academic. This is just me, what I've learned, what I've experienced, what I've intuited on my own path in Buddhism. So take it for what it is. Yeah. Okay. So he remained unshakable and later became the Buddha Akshobhya of the Eastern Pure Land Adirati, who is called the Unshakable One. So this unshakable aspect, it's coming up on it actually, kind of makes you think of, Shinjin, diamond-like Shinjin, unshakable Shinjin, in the Jodo Shinshu path, in the Shin Buddhist path. Actually, we're getting to that here, so I'll just read the next paragraph. This is reflected today in the Vajra or unshakable vow that we take at Vajra empowerment. So obviously, this is self-powered Buddhism, Vajrayana practices. I don't do that. I take a Pure Land, Amitabha, Jodo Shinshu, Shin Buddhist interpretation of all this, other powered interpretation of all this. There is a vow for each of the 5 Buddhas. Akshobhya's vow that many practitioners renew every day is, I shall uphold purely the Vajra, Bell, and Mudra of the great supreme Vajra family, and I shall uphold purely the master commitment. It is partially because of this vow that we hold the Vajra and bell as our main spiritual tools. Akshobhya's wisdom is mirror-like wisdom, which overcomes the poison of anger. So before we go further, I just want to, the Vajra is a legendary and ritualistic tool symbolizing the properties of a diamond, indestructibility. There's the indestructible diamond-like adamantine Shinjin, as I was mentioning, and a thunderbolt, irresistible force. So thunderbolt, irresistible force. That's a good term. Definitely speaks of the magnetizing aspect of Amitabha, the irresistible force of Amitabha, the irresistible truth of Shinjin, that it's a truth that insists on about itself. The irresistible force is definitely Amitabha, the mind of Amitabha Tathagata, the working of Amida Buddha. It's irresistible. It's an irresistible force. So again, this is all comes through in once you have that the once you have the Shin Buddhist Dharma eye, you see the interpretation of it. So in Hinduism, it is also associated with weapons. So yeah, the diamond-like adamantine, the diamond-like unshakable, Shinjin of the mind of the diamond-like unshakable sincere mind, entrusting mind of the Buddha that we're given in Shinjin, and then the irresistible force, thunderbolt, the irresistible force, thunderstruck. Anyway, yeah, I'm definitely thunderstruck in that sense by Amitabha Buddha as an irresistible force in my life. That is for sure. So it is partially because of this vow we hold the Vajra and bell as our main spiritual tools. Akshobhya's wisdom is mirror-like wisdom which overcomes the poison of anger. In a pond, still waters, we may see a reflection of a beautiful moon and think it is real. But if we throw a stone in the water, causing ripples, this reflection of the moon is distorted or disappears. In this metaphor, it is our mind. In this metaphor, if our mind is busy or stressed, we cannot see, like ripples in the water. And obviously, in my dream, obviously my mind was busy and stressed, and so I could not see. But if you notice, I was provided what I needed. I was provided the medicine in spite of myself, in spite of all my distractions, in spite of me taking the wrong roads, in spite of me dilly-dallying, in spite of me not thinking it was that important at times. I got what I needed. I got the motivation to get going, and I also got in the end, just the medicine was just given to me. I didn't go to the doctor. I wasn't successful in getting to the doctor. I had no merit in the bank, and I wasn't successful in getting to the doctor or the chemist, and so the medicine was just given to me. The diagnosis, prognosis, treatment, and medicine were just given to me, just freely given to me. Obviously, you can see that's the freely given other power of Amitabha, Amida Buddha. So Thich Nhat Hanh, a renowned Zen master, taught the concept this way. The mind is like a sheet of water, calmly reflecting the reality as it is. When the water is still, it can hold the image of the reality exactly as it is, with no distortion. Indeed. This metaphor arises from the old superstitions of many countries on the power of mirrors. In these legends, mirrors cannot reflect evil or illusory beings. This is the source of vampire lore, where if we look at a person in the mirror, if we see nothing reflected, that person is a vampire. This is because their evil nature is illusory. In the parable of the magic city in the Lotus Sutra, chapter 7. This is what I love. I love that it comes back to often things come back to the Lotus Sutra, um, which is basically the Buddhism, the original Buddhism. Um, it's basically, in essence, there was a Dharma master, or I don't know if it's a Dharma master or an academic or a Jodo Shinju teacher. I'm not sure who said that there was that the teaching of the Lotus Sutra is essentially the same as the teaching of other power. And again, if you have the Dharma, if you have the Shin Buddhist Dharma eye, you can clearly kind of see it in the Lotus Sutra. But I love the Lotus Sutra. I love that it comes back. Often things come back to that. It's so important in Mahayana Buddhism and Vajrayana Buddhism. Um, in the Parallel of the Magic City, in the Lotus Sutra, chapter 7, Shakyamuni tells the story of Akshobhya Buddha. In the parable, Akshobhya Buddha is the leader of the people trying to reach the city. And in my dream, there was the city. So even that was kind of being provided for me. Shakyamuni Buddha tells the story. So this the rest. There's the story told by Shakyamuni. There is a road 500 miles long, steep, dangerous, and bad, and uninhabited. And yeah, in my dream, I didn't mention that, but this is something that's coming back to me. Is it was all very hilly. In this sense, it was very much like seaside city or town in the UK. Often they're very hilly. Lots of them are very hilly and steep. There's a lot of steep roads and curves and sharp turns you got to get down and up, either to go uphill or downhill, and really steep angles and things. So that was definitely there in the dream as well. But anyway, um, anyway, so yeah, the steep, dangerous, and bad, and uninhabited and terrifying place. A large group of people. So it was up that. So obviously this was blending the city. The city was kind of, I guess that would be more the city center where my house was than in the dream. Then yeah, these hills and try things, places I was trying to get around were on the outskirts of town, not the city proper. These were on the outskirts. So now that I think about it. So yeah. Anyway. Um, A large group of people wish to travel this road and reach a cache of precious jewels. Among them, there is a guide, Akshobhya, intelligent, wise, and clear-headed, who knows the road well, both its passable and impassable features, and who wishes to lead the group through this hardship. Midway, the group he is leading grows weary and wishes to turn back. They say to the guide, "We are exhausted and afraid. We cannot go forward. It's too far. We want to turn back now." I have to say, this part of it definitely has been my experience, both on the general Buddhist path of various schools, but very definitely in the Pure Land Buddhist, Jodo Shinshu, Shin Buddhist, other powered path. My frustrations in in dealing with my doubts, barriers, questions, issues on the path that need clearing from the channels of faith. I definitely feel that many times felt exhausted and afraid that I couldn't go, forward. I was too frustrated. I had enough. It's too far. I couldn't imagine ever. It's too far. I couldn't ever imagine the possibility of Shinjin or hearing without doubt, without any doubt, all that stuff. It's too far. We want to turn back, and I often would turn back. I often did turn back. Turn away and go to other forms of Buddhism or other things, explore other things, or just take a break from it all for a while, what have you. So I definitely relate to that on my Buddhist path in general, but very specifically on my Pure Land, general Pure Land path. So to help them, Akshobhya, through his power, manifests a spectacular city in the center of the dangerous road. Akshobhya says to them, And that was like what happened. It was like suddenly I had I had everything I needed and the medication, the treatment without asking. And then suddenly I was home in more toward the city center and was in this house, That's what I needed. I needed to get home. Need to get home. Yeah, the very thing. Return home. Um, so anyway, um, Akshobhya says to them, "Do not be afraid. Do not turn back." And here I'm thinking of the white path of Shakyamuni beckoning us forward to go toward the west, go toward Amitabha, go toward Amida Buddha, and Amida Buddha to beckoning us toward him, beckoning us toward the other side, toward him. Just to follow on the white path, which is the white path of other power. Um, so we're carried along on that path. But that's what it kind of makes me think of. Think of here. Um, do not be afraid. Do not turn back. You know, stay here now in this great city I have created for you. If you go into this city, you will be happy and at peace. If you then wish to proceed to the jeweled treasure in the future, you may do so. So this makes me think of there were many times where I would when I would get that reach hitting the wall point and just say, okay, I'm just not um, I just, I'm not gonna um, I'm taking a break, or I'm just not gonna follow the Jodo Shinshu Pure Land teaching for now, or the other power teaching for now. I'm gonna go over to this, other form of Pure Land Buddhism, or other form of Buddhism like Tendai, Nichiren, Vajrayana, Zen, whatever it was that I was wanting to explore, but mainly Vajrayana, other forms of Pure Land Buddhism besides Jodo Shinshu, and Tendai and Nichiren uh, uh, Buddhism while on the Pure Land path. And so there would always be this place that I could go to rest before I continued toward the ultimate, the true treasure, the ultimate treasure on my path. And I believe again that's Upaya of Amida, Upaya of Amida Buddha. Okay. So then the exhausted group rejoiced greatly, having gained what they had never had. They thought, we have now escaped this bad road and gained happiness and peace. Then the group went forward and entered the transformed city. Thinking that they had already been saved, they felt happy and at peace. So I think this is also there's the there's the sort of true Pure Land of Sukhavati of Amida Buddha's Pure Land um, that is accessed completely through the other power of Amida, and um, and you're brought there by Amida Buddha's power in through through him giving you the sincere and trusting Shinjin mind. Um, so when you die, you go directly to the central main true Pure Land. But then there's all the provisional aspects of the Pure Land, and that's kind of what I see happening here is the provisional aspect of the Pure Land, the womb palace, the different grades of lotuses, the palace of indolence and sloth, etc. The borderlands, as it were. Um, so yeah, so then the group went forward and entered the transfer city. They thinking that they had already been saved, they felt happy and at peace. But there was still a treasure to go to. There was still the center of the Pure Land to get to, the true Pure Land of Amida Buddha. Later, Akshobhya, the guide, knowing that they were rested and no longer weary, made the city disappear and said to them, all of you come, let us go. The jewel treasure is near. The great city was merely something I created to give you a rest. Indeed. The story in chapter 7 of the Lotus Sutra of the magical city of Akshobhya ends by comparing Shakyamuni, the thus come one, to the guide in the story. Bhikshus, the thus come one is also like this. He now acts as a great guide for you all. He knows that living beings should leave and cross over the evil road of the torments of birth and death, which is so steep, difficult, and long. He shall respond to and save them. And, obviously in the Shin Buddhist, um, in the Pure Land Buddhist and Shin Buddhist traditions, Shakyamuni, especially in Shin Buddhism, is a manifestation or a Nirmanakaya of Amida Buddha, and also in Mahayana, he's a Mahayana. In the Lotus Sutra is a Mahayana, is a is a emanation of the eternal Buddha, which is the Buddha of beginningless past. We talk about in Jodo Shinshu, which is Adi Buddha, which is Vairocana Buddha, etc. You get the idea. But Shakyamuni is Amida Buddha. Predominantly for me anyway. That's that's the teaching. That's the main focus for me, that I've been the irresistible teaching, irresistible flow of Amida's power. Bhiksu's the thus one is also like this. He now acts as a great guide for you all. He knows that living beings should leave and cross the evil road of the torments of birth and death, which is so steep, difficult, and long. He shall respond to and save them all through his other, through Amida Buddha, through Amitabha Buddha's power, vow, power, light, working, good from the past, name, call, hearing. The parable acts as a poignant reminder that we need skillful means and calm, reflective wisdom to navigate through life. But for us ordinary beings, that skillful means, the upaya, comes from Amida Buddha, Amitabha. The calm, reflective wisdom is Amida Buddha's. That's the Buddha mind. That's not the bamboo mind. We don't have a calm, reflective wisdom to navigate through life. We rely on Amitabha's other power. The Buddha mind has that. The Buddha mind that is given to us in Amida Buddha's working and transference of merit and Shinjin. Okay, so, but it's already given. It's already given by Amida Buddha, by Amitabha. All that we need is already given, is already there, is already there. We just need to respond to it. Just need to respond to it. Just need to respond to it. Everything we need is there. Uh, but it's the Buddha that's giving it. It's the Buddha mind. It's the Buddha that's where the comes from. So it is also a parable that illustrates the countless forms of enlightenment. Akshobhya Buddha can manifest in any form and even manifest beautiful cities to skillfully help motivate us up the path. Their leader, who was Akshobhya Buddha, had this thought: how pitiful they are. How can they renounce the great and precious treasure and wish to turn back? For this reason, he uses skillful means to keep them motivated until they attain the treasure, which is enlightenment. And I think that was symbolically happening in the dream. I'm not saying I attained enlightenment, but there was all these different distractions and slowing down and not staying on the course to get there, and taking the wrong roads. But I had there was all these skillful means of these people kind of beeping at me, and saying, hey, you're going the wrong way, or keep moving. So I think that was like representative of the skillful means of Tathagata. And in this case, in my case, I'm Amida Buddha predominantly, but this is coming through the blue family now, just in this dream. For this reason, he uses skillful means to keep them motivated until they attain the treasure, which is enlightenment. And, I'd say Amida Buddha, and with me, Amitabha uses skillful means to motivate my responses to his light, to his teaching, to his encounter, to his call, so that he can attain me to, so that he can carry, and he carries me to the treasure. He brings the treasure to me. He carries me to the treasure. Um, and through his power, I will attain enlightenment. The great symbol of the unshakable nature of the Akshobhya family is the iconic and powerful Vajra. Again, Vajra, yeah, I think Shinjin, that's Shinjin, diamond-like irresistible force. Uh, Often called the diamond scepter, not because it's made of diamond, but because, like a diamond, it is indestructible. Indestructible. Shinjin. Why is it indestructible? Because it symbolizes but a nature. But a nature is eternal and universal. That's obviously another, that is but a nature, in a sense, Shinjin is but a nature, or in a true way, is but a nature. So, uh, like that, we too are indestructible or immortal because our essence has never died and never will die. Our true essence, our Buddha nature, is eternal. This becomes clear as we practice Ashokya Buddha's clarity practice. Now, obviously, for me, I'm not doing self-power practices. I'm not doing Akshobhya's Buddha's clarity practices, but Amida Buddha has done all those practices for me, is doing those practices for me, and transferring the merit to me of the practices of Akshobhya Buddha clarity practices, transferring the merit of that to me, transferring that working to me, or that working is happening because of he's already done the practices. Okay, in Vajrayana, most of the blue forms of highest yoga deities are forms of Akshobhya Buddha, according to Jeff Watt, eminent scholar of Himalayan art. I've seen his videos actually on YouTube. I've watched a handful of those. They're quite good. See the video linked at the information icon. He said, or Jeff Watt said, we have deities such as Chakra Samvara, Hevajra, Goya Samaja, Goya Samaja. All of these, again, apologies for my pronunciation, all of these generally are blue in color. Goya Samaja is actually named Akshobhya Vajra Goya Samaja. So this form of Goya Samaja, blue in color, is actually Akshobhya. Akshobhya manifesting as Goya Samaja. He goes on to explain that the blue forms of most highest yoga practices are emanations of Akshobhya Buddha. For instance, Chakra Samvara is represented by all five families. But his main representation is blue in color, which we see in paintings, and this is the form Akshobhya, and this is the Akshobhya form. And it's the same with Vajra, and the same with many, many other Anuttara deities. So, the just like on all the five wisdom Buddha families, the most of the other deities, or lots of the other deities in that family, are manifestations of the main Buddha, or a combination of that main Buddha and a bodhisattva, or something like that. Combination of the different deities with the main Buddha is good. But so yeah, it's kind of the same in all the five, similar in all the five families. Maybe there's differences in the degree of that happening, but anyway. Uh, all of these skillful forms, like the magical city in the Lotus Sutra, are none other than Akshobhya Buddhas, are none other than Akshobhya Buddha, with practices focused on specific needs or issues. That's what all the Buddhas do. In their upaya, they with practices are there's a practice and a teaching designed for every specific need and issue of every single being. And for me, in Jodo Shinshu, in Shin Buddhism, um, you know, um, the Buddha, there's the Buddha calls to each one of us in the way we need to hear it, works in our lives in exactly the way we need it, the working to happen and the light to be received and all of that. That's all specific to each one of us, our own specific karmic causes and conditions to which there's no barrier for Amida Buddha's light and working and power. So how does his practice overcome anger? We achieve this through his various sadhanas, mantras, and meditations, which express the wisdom of reflection. That is, through pausing and reflecting and remaining calm, we overcome our anger. Again, Amida Buddha is doing this for us. You know, Amida Buddha has done all the sadhanas, mantras, and meditations. Which express the wisdom of reflection, among many other things. And it's through his practice that we are brought to his pure land, that we are given in this life the mind of the mind of the Buddha, the entrusting mind, the sincere mind of Shinjin, with Shinjin arising and settling. And that's all through Amida Buddha's power. Amida Buddha has done all these practices, has done all the sadhanas, mantras, and meditations, is what I'm trying to say. And so, it's very difficult for Bamboo to have any kind of, clear mind. We're going to have snakes and scorpions, uh, uh, bono, kleshas, ignorance, craving, attachment, aversion, greed, anger, um, till the day we die as Bamboo. They will not, they will, as Shinran says, they do not, it doesn't cease to the very end of life. But if Shinjin has arisen settled, our birth is settled in that life, then and there. We're at the stage of non-retrogression at that point through Amida Buddha's power. And at the end of this life, we will be born in his pure land and immediately return in multiple Nirmanakaya forms as bodhisattvas and Buddhas to help all beings come to Amida Buddha's pure land and then we're working on, through the power of Amida Buddha to save all beings. So, um, there's so things we can do in response, though. When we respond to Amida Buddha, that can come in many forms. When we respond to the working, the light, the call, that can come in many forms, including the Nembutsu is one of them, but listening deeply is another, reflecting deeply is another, um, having deep Dharma dialogue is another, wanting to study the teachings is another. There's transformation that takes place where though we are Bamboo, we naturally do want to turn away from evil through the working of Amida, through the encounter with his light and his power, and his vow. We naturally want, doesn't say we're not going to take the poison, doesn't mean we're not that we're going to suddenly not, be doing evil, but we'll naturally want to try not to. We'll naturally want to turn away from it if we can and where we can to the best of our ability, which we should be doing as Shin Buddhists. We should be, trying to follow the guidelines of our Dharma masters, particularly Honen, Shinran, Renyo, for our conduct, our behavior, and those of Shakyamuni, to the best that we can. Obviously, we don't have the capacity to follow precepts, but we should try to follow the spirit of them to kind of glean the idea from it, um, the general idea. We should be trying to at least we should doing everything we can within our own karmic causes, conditions, limitations to do the best we can. Um, we're not meant to just sit back and take the poison just because we have the antidote, as Shinran says. And he says this quite emphatically in different parts of his writings that the implication and the teaching is we're meant to try. We're meant to try. And that's not self-power, but in response to Amida Buddha, there is self-effort through Amida's power, through Amida's empowerment, through Amida Buddha's enabling, through Amida Buddha's um, um, light, through Amida Buddha's working, we are enabled, empowered to, you know, through our natural response to the call, to the light, to Amida Buddha, to his working, there is a natural response to try, and there should be. Um, and so the response, there is self-effort in that response. It's all enabled and empowered by Amida, but there is an effort there. It's not self-power. It's not based on our merit. It's riding, or it's through the empowerment of Amida Buddha. It's through the empowerment of Amitabha. It's through the enabling of Amida Buddha that we even have the response, that we're responding to the call and responding to all this. So, there is a kind of, I'm doing it. I am responding. It's a self effort, not self powered, not based on my merit. It's from Amida. It's empowered by Amida, but there's still an effort there you should be making. You know, can't just sit back. You're not supposed to be just sitting back. We're supposed to be engaged with this teaching, with this way of life. Um, it's an active life. It's an active thing. Again, empowered, enabled, motivated, and in response to Amida Buddha. So there we go. Okay, so for this reason, Akshobhya's Vajra family became associated with water. So yeah, this is so coming back here. So it says, uh, you know, it is through pausing, reflecting, remaining calm, we overcome anger. So it's the reflection, we achieve this through which express the wisdom of reflection. So for this reason, Akshobhya's Vajra family became associated with water, representing the reflections on the surface and also the coolness of water. Cooling everything down. Just calm down, cooling it down. He is symbolically blue, as are all the deities associated with conquering wrath from his family. And the water, I think of the water on stone in the Gyodo Shinju and Shin Buddhist teaching and writings, the water on stone that slowly works on you. Water on stone, it makes me think of the water on stone here again. Amida Buddha coming through in the blue family, in the blue representation of things, the water representation of things. Water on stone, eventually clearing the channels of faith. Akshobhya Buddha, his wisdom partner Lochana, their spiritual son Bodhisattva Vajrapani, and medicine Buddha are all associated with the East, water, blue, and unshakable reflective wisdom. And I just think of the ultimate wisdom of Amida Buddha, the ultimate wisdom and compassion of Amida Buddha. Anyway, reflecting this, his face is serene and blue, like cool, refreshing water. He is seated on a lotus throne. He is seated on a lotus throne in unshakable Vajra posture. Unshakable Vajra posture. Just again, unshakable, diamond-like, irresistible Shinjin. His right hand, and then the refreshing cool water, clearing the channels of faith, the water on stone. His right hand touches the earth in the uh, Bhumisphara Varsha Mudra. The very same gesture Shakyamuni, yeah, of course, that's what I was thinking, used to indicate that Mother Earth was his witness and signifying his unshakable vow. And there's the ultimate primal, unshakable vow of Amitabha, the 18th vow, and well, 17th and 18th vow, and all the vows actually kind of Amitabha in that one vow. Um, his left hand is the mudra of meditative equipoise on his lap, often with the indestructible Vajra in his hand. Even his great sacred animal, the giant irresistible power of the elephant, symbolizes his unshakable nature. Blue is the symbolic sunyata. I love this. Blue is symbolic of shunyata, of emptiness, with the metaphor of the great ocean, oceanic. In the Buddhist metaphor, we are each a drop of water, which appears distinct, but its ultimate reality is water. And when the water drops gathered, and when the water drops gather, they become a stream, and the stream joins a river, and a river flows into the seas, where all waters on earth are ultimately of one essence. In other words, emptiness is none other than oneness, undifferentiated from all. The water is the source of life. We arose from the oceans. Water can be both serene, the trickle of a stream, and vast and angry, like the tempestuous ocean. So you can have the different manifestations of the Buddha. Water can erode rock. Its power is tidal, just as the Vajra family is considered the most potent of powerful forces. For these reasons, we think of Ashobya and all the members of the Vajra family as awesome and powerful forces, irresistible and unshakable, but also calming and healing. And that I think of Amitabha. That's this, all those in one, but I think of as Amitabha. They also represent Buddha mind. This is why is his seed syllable, as it represents enlightened mind. So then this goes into the mantra and so forth. So I think we'll leave it there. So thank you for listening to this next installment of the Buddha-Dharma Dreamin', next episode of Buddha-Dharma Dreamin', and the next installment of my um, five wisdom Buddha dreams, which seem to be happening now. So I had the kind of Vairocana one, which was, the Vairocana actually it includes all the five. So we've had that one, and now we've had the blue family, Akshobhya Buddha, Medicine Buddha, Blue Tara, uh, the blue consort of the Buddha, etc. So, and all the blue deities. So, yeah, thanks for listening. I appreciate you listening. I hope in some way that through Amida Buddha's working in power and empowerment and enabling this, this has been good to hear or beneficial in some way. So, and again, I'm doing this as part of my journey, my Dharma activities, my Dharma path, and my experience. So again, take it for what it's worth. Not a teacher, not a expert, not a scholar, not a academic. Just sharing my experience, and that's what the whole purpose of my channel is. So, thank you very much. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo, Namo. All right, take care. Until next time.